Our top focus at this hour. Now, as fears of Russian invasion loom over Ukraine, the United States has dramatically raised the alarm, warning that a Russian invasion could begin within few days. The White House said that a Russian invasion, starting with civilians being caught under aerial bombing, could begin any time, even before the end of the Beijing Olympics, which is by February 20th. The United States has urged its citizens to leave Ukraine within 48 hours.
To see signs of Russian escalation, including new forces arriving at the Ukrainian border. As we've said before, we are in the window when an invasion could begin at any time, should Vladimir Putin decide to order it. I will not comment on the details of our intelligence information, but I do want to be clear. It could begin during the Olympics, despite a lot of speculation that it would only happen after the Olympics. If a Russian attack on Ukraine proceeds, it is likely to begin with aerial bombing and missile attacks that could obviously kill civilians without regard to their nationality. A subsequent ground invasion would involve the onslaught of a massive force. With virtually no notice, communications to arrange a departure could be severed and commercial transit halted. No one would be able to count on air or rail or road departures once military action.
Now, the alarm from the White House came shortly after U.S. President Joe Biden and 6 European leaders held talks on the worst crisis between the West and Russia since the end of Cold War. Joe Biden is likely to speak to Vladimir Putin today. French President Macron, who has been mediating between the two sides, is also likely to speak to the Russian president today. Sources say U.S. President Joe Biden also met his national security advisors in the White House Situation Room to discuss Russia's ongoing military buildup.
We have a lot to discuss.
It is also being said that U.S. officials believe that the crisis appeared to be reaching a critical point, with Moscow hardening its rhetoric by sending warships to the Black Sea and adding more military equipment in Belarus. Russia and Belarus continue to hold joint military drills less than 100 kilometers from Kiev. Images on your screen now show the Russian Defense Ministry tank drills and paratrooper landings during the joint drills. Top U.S. General Mark Milley spoke to his Russian counterpart, General Valery Gerasimov. In a rare phone call, the two generals discussed several security-related issues of concern, details of which have not been revealed as of now. Now, the telephone call is not the first between the two generals. They last spoke on November 23rd and discussed Russian troop movements around Ukraine. The United States repeated its warning that Russia risks severe Western sanctions and that NATO is now more cohesive, more purposeful and more dynamic than any time in recent memory.
We have achieved a remarkable level of unity and common purpose, from the broad strategy down to the technical details. If Russia proceeds, its long-term power and influence will be diminished, not enhanced, by an invasion.
While Russia is sending in more troops near the Ukrainian border, United States and NATO are trying to match its deployment. The United States said that it is sending 3,000 more troops to Poland to reassure NATO allies amid fears of a Russian invasion. Now, these 3,000 airborne troops based at Fort Bragg in North Carolina will now leave the base in coming days and are expected to arrive in Poland early next week. United States also reassured its support to Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke to his Ukrainian counterpart and said that Ukraine will have enduring support from the United States for its sovereignty and territorial integrity. The growing alarm over the conflict comes despite efforts at shuttle diplomacy by U.S. and the West. Earlier, French President Emmanuel Macron visited both Kiev and Moscow. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is expected to do the same in the coming week. But even while leaders hope that diplomacy will work out, the fear of an invasion is only growing. For more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
Until Friday, most U.S. experts and officials believe that should Russian President Vladimir Putin order an invasion into Ukraine, it would be after the Beijing Olympics in a bid not to upstage Chinese President Xi Jinping. However, recent comments made by Biden administration officials are telling a different story. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan also reiterated that American citizens should depart Ukraine immediately using commercial flights while they're still available, reiterating statements made earlier by the State Department that the U.S. military will not be going into the country to save them, and also echoing statements made by the U.S. president himself in an interview just days earlier, who also said, quote, "We're dealing with one of the largest armies in the world." The president also said it's a very different situation and things could go crazy quickly, making a comparison with the situation in Afghanistan. Now, all this is happening while Russia continues to deny that it plans on invading Ukraine in any form, and as all eyes and ears will be on that scheduled telephone conversation between U.S. President Joe Biden and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin on Saturday to see whether or not a diplomatic path is still possible in the current crisis. Susan Tahwani reporting from New York for WION, World is One.